Well, for the 100 millionth time on Twitter.com, this nigga is trash. We're having a Charger discourse discussion, and honestly, I really don't personally care about Chargers, but I do think a topic of discussion never exactly had in the community is hating certain weapons and why it's okay. In this video, I'm going to talk about the okay ways to hate a weapon and the not okay ways to hate a weapon. Let's go ahead and give an example. Let's start with Chargers, since that seems to always be the pinnacle of weapon hatred aside from blasters. Why do people hate Chargers? Well, it's a long-range weapon with great range, and alongside that great range is also a one-shot. On top of that, depending on which Charger you play, you have different perks, but we're going to focus on Splatter Scope and E-Liter since those are the most used and the most popular. Contrary to what you think, the Splatter Scope, there's not too much downtime until they fire their next shot. That is, until they have to refill their ink tank or switch positions depending on the course of the game. Same thing with the E-Liter, except it has a slightly slower charge time and more range to its name, giving you less safe places to sit at, especially when you consider certain maps terrain. Let's take ink block zones for example. Once the E-Liter is set up on top mid, there's not too many places you can safely hide where the E-Liter won't reach, unless there's cover. Combine this with the fact most Charger mains put a decent amount of time into their weapon to be able to land most of their shots when given an opportunity. With all these factors combined, these two Chargers will never be anything lower than mid-tier or just straight up high tier on a tier list period. Unless it has a terrible kit, like the Kissing Charger in Splatoon 2. But like all good weapons, and just weapons period, they all have counterplay. And no, throwing bombs is not good counterplay advice against Chargers. That is subjective on so many variables throughout a match, depending on positioning. If you're right underneath them, then of course we're going to check the entire kitchen sink at them. But if we're locked out trying to find a way back in, then this won't work, since there's an entire distance of range separating the players. It's the equivalent of the casual saying, just dodge missiles. Anyways, counterplay against the Charger usually involves gathering your specials to displace them and move them. There are a ton of specials in the game that can do that. Booyah Bomb, Tri-Strike, Killer Whale, Tenon missiles, Zuka, and etc. can easily displace or kill any Charger if they're not careful. Charger's movement capability is also on the slower side, like a lot of weapons in this game. Once you are able to close that distance on the Charger, it becomes a matchup heavily rooted in your favor. You are also susceptible to flanks as a Charger, so we can't forget that. That is more method of action on flank rounds, but that's besides the point. So I just gave you a brief rundown on Charger's strengths and weaknesses. The whole point of that was for you to have an understanding of why people hate the weapon, and yet it's not considered to be a pinnacle meta option. So take this logic and apply it to every weapon in the game. Each weapon has things it's really good at. Some of those traits can be extremely annoying to deal with and vary from player to player. At the lower levels or the casual side of the community, we know Tenon missiles aren't considered to be that good of a special since they don't play in a comp environment. But up here in the comp scene, we absolutely detest Tenon missiles for understandable reasons. Each weapon having their own individual strengths usually try to exploit that by any means necessary, and that's where the hatred of certain weapons comes from. If your weapon is thrown into that conversation constantly, it's only natural you will feel annoyed and frustrated. However, I'm here to elicit information to y'all. It's not that deep. Just because someone hates dealing with your weapon/weapon class, it's really not the end of the world. It's only natural that players get frustrated dealing with certain, if not all weapons in the game to a certain extent, because we all perceive things differently. If someone wants to scream their head off on how much they hate blasters and rollers, just let them. Them saying that it's not a personal attack on you. If anything, you're just making it personal when it's really not. They just hate dealing with blasters. This is not an insult to you as a person by all means. Your favorite Splatoon weapon is not your personality. It's not you at all. It's a glorified object in a video game. It can be hated, it can be loved. There also comes to a point where you as the weapon wielder have to acknowledge that your weapon can be a bit frustrating to deal with. I'm sure as hell not afraid to admit that. For my time playing Splatoon, I pretty much mained the easier weapons to pick up in the game. Classes ranging from brushes, big hitbox buckets, to shooters. I always see talk of shooter privilege going around in the community, and I quite literally main all shooters. The thing is, I don't care, because I'm going to keep playing my favorite shooters because that's what I'm good at. That's what I put my time into. If I sat up here and cared about every person that hated my weapon or weapon class, then I'm quite literally making the game unfun for myself. Their frustration towards my weapon are understandable. They can rant and they hate all they want, as long as there's nothing out of line like telling me to kill myself because I play a certain weapon. Then it's not that serious. And do not think just because your weapon is at the bottom of the tier list, you should be free from all hatred towards the weapon. Sure, your weapon may be absolute dog shit, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing to hate about it. I know Paintbrush is a terrible weapon overall, but I don't care. I still have my reasons for despising that thing. I know Aerospray is a testament of the worst weapon in Splatoon's history, and I do not hate it. It's really bad. But God forbid, that thing can still get 9 to 10 Booyah Bombs a match. Hero may be in the mid tier in Smash Ultimate's official tier list, but do you think people give a damn when a motherfucker is literally deleting your stock with thwack or getting random critical hits that kill you at early percents? It's just like how we don't appreciate getting one-shotted across the fucking map with zero warning, getting ledge camped by a roller with more range than you think, dealing with a Tri-Slosher's moon-sized 2-shot hitbox for 5 minutes during the match, and trying to run from an invisibility special that forces you off objective. Hating weapons and specials is okay. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hey, what are some weapons you absolutely hate to go up against? I hope you all enjoyed. See you all next time.